So I wanted to welcome you all. This is the August Affinity Group. My name is Sarah Williams, and I'm a collaborative network consultant at the Jackson Collaborative Network. I know many of you. I do this work with Amy.
I'm Amy Forrest, also a consultant with the Jackson Collaborative Network. So excited to be here.
I would love it if you all would just introduce yourself briefly, your name and agency, if that's applicable.
Sure, I can start. It's Martha York with Region 2 Area Agency on Aging. And I think I might as well just share an office with Alyssa because we seem to show up at all the same meetings all the time.
It's a good sign.
And I'm Melissa Harris, Martha's counterpart, but actually we don't work at the same office. So I am with Ann Arbor VA Healthcare System, and I am a community engagement and partnership coordinator. And I do appreciate the recordings because I did not know what this was all about. And I watched last month's recording.
We had a viewer.
Oh my gosh. Put it in the newsletter.
I decided to check it out this month in person.
Excellent.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe I just gave that whole spiel about nobody watches.
I was like, oh, just wait till I share. I watched your meeting.
This is like, got it. Got you. Well, that's great. That means it's paying off.
And she's
I
still,
think it said there were 4 views when I clicked it. So maybe a few others.
and she still came to this one. That is super impressive.
That's fantastic. All right. Noting that.
So thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Angie Guadagnini with Department of Health and Human Services. Alyssa, I just saw you at our board meeting on Monday, and I have a feeling I'm going to be seeing you everywhere.
Nice to see you again.
I'll go. Tasha Thomas, Director of Community Engagement for Henry Ford Jackson Hospital.
And this is Julie Lowry. I'm the HIE manager at Henry Ford Health System and Community Health Technology Network. We're a sub-state HIE responsible for sharing and exchanging data across the state of Michigan. And I don't have my camera on, I apologize, but my internet is not fast enough. And I have not been on any of these meetings since the very first one that we had. But things are slowing down enough that I finally can attend again.
Great.
Well, thanks for joining.
Thanks for being here. Julie, will you tell me what HIE means?
Health Information Exchange.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Ann Sloan. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, my camera will, I don't know what's going on. It's,
No worries.
I know, but anyways, I'm here. So I'm Ann Sloan. I'm the community health coordinator at the Jackson County Health Department.
Thanks for being here.
Is it to me?
It's to you,
On
Ryan.
you.
My name is Ryan and I'm with the Jackson Area Transportation Authority. I am the Government and Community Relations Manager. And my camera's not on because I'm stuffing my face. My internet is just fine.
Lots of judgment given.
That works.
know?
That works.
That's okay. I'll take that judgment. My belly's hungry.
We want happy people here, so
This
it's
is
all
so
good.
weird. Ryan, I just heard your name in a meeting. Ryan, I
did?
just heard your name in a meeting I was just at like 30 minutes ago, and then everyone told me I had to meet you. So this is just serendipitous. Maybe I'll have a chance to say more about that at some point if it makes sense. I'll put my email in the chat because they're like, you need to talk to Ryan. I'll put my email in the chat. Look at this.
Yes.
Whatever
Absolutely.
is happening.
Reach out to me anytime. So, I mean, I'm more than happy to help out. I'm usually in the office. I actually, I did not register for today's meeting because I was up at Crystal Mountain Resort. We were at the Michigan Public Transit Association's annual statewide conference. So we were up there talking with different transit agencies, talking with MDOT, talking with FTA, talking about different things that we can do as a collaborative of transportation providers to better connect our community. So it was a really great conference, and I'm still kind of going through the data and going through the different suggestions and everything and trying to figure out exactly, how we can incorporate some stuff. So yeah, it was really good.
Awesome.
That's great. Well,
we will-
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, just so you know, if you're looking for exchanging information, we will be following up with like the slides and notes that were taken during this and kind of connections to the to our website and things, so you can do partner profiles and such. So you will have access to everyone's information who attended. So.
And also, I was going to say, those who are not newbies to these groups know that connections tend to be the thing that is the strongest takeaway. Obviously, we want to also help with like strengthening strategies, and if you're stuck in a place, maybe we can help. Or, but like you all having a space to gather, and then Martha's like, wait, I'm working on this thing. Oh my gosh, Angie, I didn't know you were working on this thing, and so the intent is that. So not many things are off topic. Like we might wrangle you back if you get way out, but we tend to kind of, let things happen. So it just might come up anyway, whatever you guys are working on. Usually it does. So I'll start us. Is that my cue? The silent cue?
Yeah, that's your cue.
All right.
Bring it on.
All right. Oh, now I have to go to share screen. Let's see if I can get there. Right, here we are. We started here and we already welcomed everyone. We'll kind of fly through these beginning ones pretty quickly. I know we have people that have been a part of the groups and also people that haven't as much. So just to kind of set the tone and the grounding for this group, because the network also hosts different kinds of groups. Amy and I serve different roles. We host different things. The Affinity Group is really around talking about the root causes of issues, why things are happening. Some of the work in the network used to be pretty sector-based and like health over here and education over here. And now it really is trying to work on root causes together, because trust in a community doesn't matter what sector it's coming from. It's affecting all sectors. So that is the intent of the groups, to bring people together, really focusing on how partnering with community members who are experiencing the problem, centering their experiences, and then how to address the issues. And then Amy and I serve as facilitators. So we are here to wrangle you back in if you get a little bit out in the weeds. We're here to connect. We have resources and sort of things, but we are just kind of the facilitators, as you all are the experts in what you're doing. Just quick, goals sounds a little lofty, but the intent of you all coming is perhaps you will understand more around how your work can drive action on systems change. So we're really focused on big picture goals, big picture measures. Programs are great, but like, what are they contributing to? We already talked about enhancing partner connections, strengthening them, building new ones, building relationships with each other and with us, so that I feel, even like with the people in this group, I have, a stronger trusting relationship, right? Because we've spent time together. It's kind of always the goal. And then we will always talk about tracking and measuring progress. And if it makes sense to adapt and adjust based on data collected. Just a quick group norm. As we gather together as a group, this would probably go in, be applicable to any group we have. But just kind of keeping in mind, we like to think an authentic, truthful space. So, posing questions, not assuming things of people, pushing back. It's not really on there, but we sometimes will do that.
We do it.
We do, right? Because we want to, we want to create a space where people feel comfortable putting ideas on the table and then also having conversation around it. Amy, do you want to run through these?
Sure. Yeah, this is just kind of getting people to move to action, right? Rather than sitting around and talking about all of the problems and weeing and eyeing about them. It's really diving in and building solutions. Partner profile. I think most of you guys have done a partner profile. You're always welcome to update that too. So if you're working on a particular project when you designed it and that's been accomplished, and then you're kind of shifting gears, feel free to go in and adjust that. as you change your goals and focuses in the work that you're doing. That really, that we talked about connections, that's really a fantastic way to connect and let people know what you're working on so that, you know, they can scroll through and be like, oh, wow, this is fantastic. I'm going to reach out to that person. And it's really kind of the stepping stone into the network space. So it's kind of your introduction and your, hey, I want to be part of this and I want to kind of dig into some of the root causes.
Can
Can we
we
pop back? Oh,
I was
go
gonna
ahead.
say, yeah, I threw a screenshot on here just so you can see, and Alyssa, I won't try and like target you a lot, but it seems like, you know, you're like, I know you and you and you and you. So, but this is, it's a public facing page and people can update it whenever. And also it could be a good spot for you to enter your information. So you can see right there, like, oh, Angie is working on this. It's not, you know, we're not grading you on what you put in systems change, you know, that column, but essentially so that we're like, oh my gosh, all these people are working on these root causes, like maybe we should gather around it, right? So there's a piece of data in there for us as well. I'll move you back.
Yeah, and then join us in the affinity group discussions. It's a great way to kind of talk about the strategies and get assistance, not only from Sarah and I, but from other folks in the group. People have really had some great ideas on like, okay, you know, tried this strategy and it didn't work, and they'll say, try it this way. Action planning is a great way to kind of solidify your thoughts around addressing problems. We have action planning through our website, and it's kind of a formalized process, but we can work with you and walk you through it. So like all you need to begin action planning is your problem statement, right? So it can be like, you know, we're struggling to engage this population around this service or whatever. And then we can kind of walk you through that and say, well, how do you know? Look at the data, you know, build some strategies, things like that. So seems lofty, seems heavy, but it's really not. You just need to come with a problem statement, and we'll kind of work through some of that. And then, as Sarah mentioned earlier, tracking and reporting progress. We want to update that, right? So I finished this strategy, and that told me this, and now I'm going to take this step. And then the reporting successes. We talk about shared measurement systems. That is how we know if we're making a difference on these root causes. We have some built-in measures like vital statistics and census data and, you know, ridership data, different kind of things that are already kind of contributing to the shared measurement and the root causes. But we also have you guys in the community that are doing work, not unofficially, but a little less formalized, and you can take your measures and say, this is the root cause I'm working on. These are the strategies I'm doing around that. And these are the numbers that I've reached. That also contributes to those the root causes in our outcome measures. So that is why we keep trying to say, you guys, we know you're doing the work. We know you're making differences in the community. And if we don't hear about it, we can't say, hey, we've got 7 organizations that are working on building trust. And this is the number of people they reached. And these are some of the strategies they do. So we always bug you guys to kind of write things in and formalize action plans. We can do it for you if you tell us what you're doing. So,
Well, and some of those conversations come up in these groups, right? Like, you know, sometimes Angie will be like, oh, I'm not doing anything. And then the next sentence she'll be like, actually, I did these 5 things. And we're like, Angie, you're doing all this work. So some of it's also just having a space and a container to talk about it, which is what Amy and I will often do, right? Like, you just said you had this incredible thing happen. We should capture that. So you've been warned, we might do that. We have done it. We'll do it again. And then this is a spot where we're also trying to highlight and capture some of the wins that people are working at or have accomplished already. I mean, it ties into all the work that everyone's doing too. But sometimes, like Amy said, you all are doing work we don't know about, obviously, because we're not everywhere. But do we have a screenshot? Yeah. So like sometimes like people are like, hey, did you know that, Anne is on the call, right? Like low numbers of program enrollment, there's decreased trust in the community, and we did this thing around it. It doesn't have to be like change the world, solved all the policy problems, but like, just so you know, like I did this thing, invited Selena Taylor with Partial to Girls. As a result of that, we connected as a result of that. More things are coming, more wins might come later, but this is also a public facing page and an opportunity to like celebrate the work people are doing. And so other people can see also, like, you might be like, oh, actually, well, if this is what we're counting as wins, I've got a couple of my own, you know. So we might also highlight those. If you are in this meeting or for somewhere else having a conversation, we might say like, oh my gosh, can we capture that? Because we think it's important to. And then we also are trying to align that, right? So like clearly in Anne's talking about decreasing trust in the community, she's working specifically to address this root cause, and maybe others, right? Because this work is messy and overlaps. But like with this intervention, it's pretty clinical, but with this program, with this effort she's doing, the goal is to increase trust, which, you know, is an important thing that we can show measures over time. Anything I missed there? So here's a just an overview. We used to have 3 affinity groups based on what you all said, like you were working on. Many of you were like, oh yeah, I'm trying to help navigate service systems to make them easier for people to navigate, regardless of what system, right? What sort of barriers are there? So these were the 3 we had, and based on feedback and attendance, honestly, a lot of you guys were all coming to like similar ones or overlapping, and we're like, maybe we just combine them all because the work is, you know, overlapping, and also we're always open and ready to adjust to whatever comes next. So there might be another iteration of affinity groups, or we might break it into 10, like anything is possible really. But these are the things that have been talked about. And as we talk about like building trust, navigating service systems, and then inequitable policies and practices, which can mean about a million different things. These are the things that we've talked about in the individual affinity groups. And then they've also, as we mesh and merge, we're talking about it all. And then usually here is where I will switch over to Padlet. And I know Amy took notes last month because I was on vacation. And
How dare she?
actually had, how dare I?
Angie asked about putting the link for that, the partner profiles and the wins and things like that. So I just did add that link to the chat. So that
Oh,
is
perfect.
through our website, and that'll take you to partner resources, and that will have partner profiles, action planning, wins, things like that. So
Awesome. I'm going to coordinate with Zoe and our program managers to identify 1 or 2 of us that will maintain that for DHHS, because we're doing so much on so many fronts that I don't want it to get lost, and I'm not involved in all of it. So I want to make sure that we're documenting our work appropriately for other people to be able to see what we're doing.
yeah, I did. I think I reached out to you, Angie, because I did put some wins in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So often when we
That
hear
was a
stuff,
big win. So
yes,
yes.
it was. And a lot of times when we hear things, I know Martha, we've got some of yours in. And so when we hear things, even in these meetings, usually Sarah and I will like kind of format it and send it out and say, is this what you said? Did I miss anything? And all you have to do is go, yep, that's about what it was. And then we throw it in there. We love to like, you know, celebrate all these small wins. So.
And also as a reminder, with partner profiles, it is unique per person. So if Angie was here with 5 of her teammates, I don't know, words feel weird to me today. Teammates not be the right word, but if each of them would have an individual partner profile, because it is pertinent to you. So Angie's doing this in the community. Even if you are working on a team and you're doing similar things, each person would have a separate partner profile. Just to clarify that part. And then on the wins part, right, Angie, you might say, hey, I know about this thing that's happening in DHHS. And either like you want, like someone else might be the contact person, or you might, but just to clarify, like the partner profile piece is really like contact, right? Like who you are, what you're doing in the community around things. And then if there are strategies and actions and things like that, it might get messier, which it probably will, but we're also happy to help navigate all of that. So let's see if I have the ability to share. And so this is the Padlet we usually throw things on. I take kind of quick ad hoc notes. Sometimes people will correct me. Teshna's really good at correcting me. She'll be like, Sarah, actually, I'm going to need you to change that 2 to a 1, which I love very much, actually, as like a, you know, a note taker as well. But these are not, these will not be published in any newspaper, just so you know. But also I want to capture things correctly. So I tend to jot down what people are saying. It also gives Amy and I a reference point later to be like, Ryan, did you say this thing? Like, that's pretty incredible. We should talk more about that. So Ryan, don't shake your head. Of course yes. So, and also, right, like, of course, like we want to, like, updates are good, like what you're doing, but we're really hoping that you're tying it into a root cause. Like, where do you think, and we might say that if you're like, I have an update, I might say like, where do you think that would fit, you know, inequitable policies? Like, how is that tied to that, you know? So does anyone want to go first?
Well, I'm happy to start things off. I want to say that, you know, I did mention that I run into Alyssa everywhere, but I've been trying to intentionally become part of her military coalition and her resiliency subgroups just to work on building trust with and a better understanding of the veteran and military community. And as a result of that, I approached Alyssa about she's helping us with some data in the community, which was great. But I said, I want to look at the wording of how we ask people questions so that we can meet this gap in the community of people who have served in the military, but might not identify themselves as a veteran because they were denied benefits or because they were discharged dishonorably or other than honorably, or there's a whole bunch of different things that someone might not say yes when you ask them, are you a veteran, versus if you ask them, have you ever served in the US military, you might capture that. And I know we're meeting a lot of that gaps in needs in our organization with our older adults and homebound people with disabilities. So I want to make sure that we're doing it in a way that is friendly and supportive. And so I brought it before my DEI committee, and they were really eager to learn some of these things as well. So just kind of broadening people's awareness, because I think we in general, we're asking everyone, are you a veteran? But I'm like, let's change the wording on that. Just like I suggested last month, I think I told this group how I brought in some revised wording for asking things about sexual identity, sexual orientation, just a way to word it using trainings that I took through SAGE out of Metro Detroit. I thought it was beautiful. It was very, very helpful to me to come up with different ways to word things just to show that we are an affirming and welcoming organization. And so I've modified all of our data collection tools in my department to use these updated wordings as well. So, yeah. Yeah, I feel good about that. Get a little pushback here and there from a few people. I mentioned that last meeting, but not about the military stuff, more so about the LGBTQ affirmations. There's definitely challenges in the community on that subject.
And also, Martha attended military culture training, and her organization subsequently ordered military culture books from me so that everyone can have that information accessible. So I'm super impressed. Thanks, Martha.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
it just makes sense, right? It's like we're serving an overlap of population, and we want to be better versed in that. I don't think we're well versed in it. If you're not from a military family, a lot of this is foreign concepts, you know?
Martha, I love so much how you model, like, okay, so again, it's just shows this piece around how we have certain identities, all of us, individual identities, and we have so many that are not a part of our, like, and all of them have value. Oh my, am I gonna cry today? Listen, tonight,
Does
Amy
my
knows.
girls make you cry, Sarah?
Amy already knows I'm a crier. Listen, we already know.
Could
this
be the
about me.
day.
No, but like you are showing like that people have value, and there's such a strong humility piece. We've talked about this in a million different ways because good leaders in our community model good leadership by saying, wow, you know what? I did not know that. Wow, that's so interesting. I thought saying veteran was the right way to do it, right? And then there's this humility piece of saying, oh my gosh, you don't feel included by this. I'd like to change what I'm doing and also my organization so that you feel welcome, safe, and loved. Good Lord Almighty. This is fantastic. I just love that so much. And you've brought up more than one example of it. And I just am thankful that you're here to share that and I think you're an asset in general in life.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, Sarah. I have to admit, every time one of these meetings come up, I'm like, oh, I have so many other things to do. Do I want to go to this meeting? Right? We all do, right?
Oh, yeah.
But every time
I
I
do.
come, I think it helps me stay grounded in truly walking the talk, not just saying it's important to me in my personal life to try to be a better advocate and a better voice. It makes me be more mindful and intentional about it. I went to the Pride event over the weekend and it was a blast. And I've been meeting different people as an ally on their program committee, but I'd only met them on Zoom. So to meet people in person and show up and truly show support, not just, be in word, but really be present. I'm stretching myself trying to do that stuff a little bit more.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that.
I gotta say, as someone who is a veteran, I love what you're doing with the military stuff because I for a very long time after I got out of the service, I did not identify as a veteran because when I left, I was honorably discharged, yes, but I didn't have like any veterans benefits or VA benefits, as it were, as far as like disability benefits or retirement, because I served my time. I did 9.5 years in.
Wow.
And then when I got out, I just didn't think of it. So, and I can relate to that whole, if you'd have asked me 15, 20 years ago, are you a veteran? I'd have been like, no, you know what I mean? I served, but I didn't, so there's a disconnect there. And I can tell you that from a personal standpoint. So
Wow.
I love that you're doing this and love that you're changing that wording.
Okay, cool. So good to know. So good to know. Thanks, Ryan. And thanks for your service. Really.
So I can share a little piece in that I am not a veteran. My father-in-law is a veteran, and he refuses to acknowledge that he's a veteran. He did 4 years with the Army back during Vietnam, but he was stationed in Germany, not Vietnam. So he doesn't see himself as a veteran because he didn't serve on a front line. He served on the backside, and he just doesn't see himself as a veteran. So changing that wording to have you served rather than are you a veteran, because many of us, at least he does, sees veterans as those who fight, and he did not fight. He was, in a different organization, a different part altogether. So I think that's important to acknowledge as well.
Oh my gosh. So this is just so eye-opening to me.
What Angie was saying is exactly what I was kind of referring to, because I did serve. I didn't serve during wartime in a war theater. You know what I mean? So I had always equated that. I was fortunate enough to be in at a time when we were at peace. I did deploy, but I didn't fight. You know what I mean? There wasn't, a hot war going on, as it were. So yeah, I can totally understand exactly where Angie's, is it father-in-law or where he's coming from?
Yep, it's my father-in-law. Yep.
And Brian, this is Julie. I can speak to, not as myself being a veteran, because I did not serve in the military, but I do have 2 employees that in the past never indicated that they were a veteran. And this last go around with a question at work, they changed it to asking if they served in the military. And that's when I found out that they both did, but they did not consider themselves veterans because they didn't serve in war.
Yeah.
This is so interesting. And I think such a great conversation. Well, one, because I also did not know, this is not my field of expertise at all, right? I had no idea. But also I think it just also goes to show you that this is just one population and one family, right? of people who define things differently. And there's a language piece and a definition piece that we're talking about, that people are defining it differently. Like there might be people who served in the military not during a wartime and identify as a veteran, right? Like they are defining things differently. And I think it's so interesting that what you're all saying is the same thing on like, we are defining things differently. And that's okay, because as people and as identities, I get to say, like, if I say that I'm queer, and if someone else says that they're queer, that actually might mean two different things. And so there's a piece in there too around this simple changing of language is just honoring that, right? And you're also allowing people to decide what it means for them. You're not like putting this thing on them. It's just, I think it's just lovely, honestly, to when, you know, thinking about it, because then Ryan can say, well, actually, I didn't identify as a veteran at one time, and now I do. Like identities also change and labels change, and right, like culture changes. But I think it's pretty powerful. This whole conversation, you know, can be applied in so many different realms and so many different fields around language and definition and identities.
I'm actually going to, as a result of this conversation, going to go look at our employment applications after this is all said and done to see if it actually asks, are you a veteran or have you served in the military? So I'm going to confirm that the wording is updated to maybe reflect that if it's not already. I don't know exactly what it says at this point, but I'm going to go take a look at it after this meeting, and I'm going to look and see. And if I can, I'm going to get that wording updated.
Amy, you're on mute, but are you crying? Because I'm about to cry.
No, I'm joking. No, no, I'm going to save the tears for you, Sarah, because that's
Okay.
no, I was just going to tell Martha that I'll be reaching out with some verbiage so we can get that in as a win. And then everyone that reads that win will likely do what Ryan did and take a look at their thing. So I'll be following up with email with you.
Can I say a
It
few
followed with me, but it came from Alyssa. She's
Okay.
Can I say a few things about that? Like, this is just so exciting because this is what I'm working on. So to hear you all just so exciting, and the experience being genuine like that what I've been talking to different groups about resonates, right? And so it's interesting because VA has traditionally been very siloed, not a part of the community, all about enrolled veterans giving care within VA. And a lot of research was done over the past few years. And the data really showed that 65% of veterans who die by suicide are not enrolled in VA care. And so there's this new national initiative that started, community-based interventions for suicide prevention, that I'm a part of. And this is really about going into local communities and working with local communities to identify what are the needs of the military community, veterans, service members, and their families. And we have 3 different priority areas that are best practices. And the number one best practice is, have you served in the US military? Doing a campaign, have you served in the US military? And I'm also part of the statewide Michigan Governor's Challenge, which is, so every state was called to have a statewide suicide prevention coalition focused on service members, veterans, and their families. They have the same 3 priority areas. Michigan is one of the leading states in the country for rolling out these initiatives. And so there's kind of a twofold purpose, probably more than 2, with the Michigan Veteran Connector program, which is where at the state level, they're working with different organizations and with legislation to try to change the state's forms to encourage all agencies to say, have you served in the US military? Because I'm looking at my stats right now. The Michigan is the 11th ranking state for number of veterans. And what we know in Jackson in particular is, so nationally about 50% of veterans are enrolled in VA care. In Jackson County, only 23% are enrolled in VA care. And so the question is, if they're not coming to VA, where are they going? Are they getting care? Are they not getting care? Are they getting military culturally appropriate care where the trained clinicians understand military culture? Are they getting best practices? And then we also know, so there's 315,000 veterans not connected right now. And MVAA does a veteran, a benefits checkup. And so this initiative that we've put together at the state level is this have you served campaign, but we want to encourage agencies and businesses, anyone, to become a Michigan Veteran Connector, where you change your question to have you served in the US military, and then you also provide the 1-800-MISH-VET phone number so that 24/7 they can get a benefits check, or they can call and say, hey, my loved one probably won't call you, but I want you to call them and go over whether they're eligible for any benefits. Because a lot of times when a veteran doesn't consider themselves to be a veteran, they actually haven't called to see if there are any new financial resources or services that might be available to them. And Michigan is really trying to bolster all of these at our local counties with the hope of serving veteran service members and their families in those areas, any of them. But also part two, once we built that up a bit, we actually want to really target transitioning service members and be able to say, here's a one-stop shop website, Michigan Veteran Affairs page. Click your county, see who's Michigan Veteran Connector, see who's a veteran-friendly employer, see who's a veteran-friendly school, and really trying to say, why Michigan, purely veteran-friendly, trying to bring those transitioning service members here because we have these services and supports available for them. So that's just one area, but thank you for letting me share about that.
The other thing that was really eye-opening to me, Alyssa, was the almost penalty-oriented system for people in the military who identify as having mental health needs or counseling needs. Like the way the system is designed, when we talk about equitable practices, you've really helped educate me on how it's just designed to almost be punitive to somebody if they seek help. And that's, when we talk about what does this group need to do, like how in the world do we influence that to say that needs to change? We if we want to reduce the suicide rate, we've got to be able to make it so that they can access mental health services without being punished.
Yeah, we have, the National Guard right there in Jackson, and we have we have reservists right there in Jackson. And I frequently hear, because we have the Jackson County Military Coalition, and we formed this to help bridge services, build services, increase access, anything related to the military community's needs. And with the Guard and reservists, I hear anyone who's active duty, right? What you hear is that when your insurance is TRICARE and it's through your local base. And so like if someone has a mental health issue in the Guard, they're supposed to go within the Guard to talk about that. But those records are not private. Those records, when you go to deploy, that's the first time anyone's looking at them. So you might be like, oh yeah, I disclosed I had depression, no problem. They pull that record to deploy and they're being told, we're kicking you out because of this mental health. It's not, we're not deploying you. It's that, nope, you're not here anymore. And I cannot tell you how often this happens. And folks are scared to go other places because they're scared those records are going to be subpoenaed. So a lot of providers don't take TRICARE. Issue number one, access to care. They can't go anywhere else. And secondly, if they do go somewhere else, like a vet center, which by the way, we have, our closest one is Dearborn, and they are like, hey, our records are sealed unless they're subpoenaed. There is a lot of fear that those records are going to be subpoenaed and that they will be kicked out of the military. So people will swallow all the symptoms they're dealing with, and then it's too much to handle, and they would rather die by suicide than go get care and get kicked out of the military. The honor behind their service. And people have literally told me that. So it's a huge issue. People can't get care because of their active duty.
Well, and I wouldn't be me if I didn't also bring up the fact that, toxic masculinity and the military in general has this rah, we're macho, we're men, don't feel feelings. If you're feeling sad, man up and all that bullshit, right? So there's a lot of pieces to it, and I'm not implying that you have to fix that, but if this policy piece, that's the shit that I want to fix. I want to fix the culture piece, but there's a piece in there too of this is not helpful, right? When you think about the records are not private in like the stigma, right? Because if it's like like, and again, I'm a social worker, right? So I will advocate strongly for the well-being of people, right? Like all of your body, physical, mental, all spiritual, all of it. But to then say we're trying to turn this society into a place where all people can say, you know what, I'm like not doing well and I need a little support, and period. Like, is it, oh, you need like a cast for your wrist should hold the same weight, right? As maybe some antidepressants or counseling, like, and not even to mention that perhaps if you are in the military, you have experienced traumatic things, right? Like, don't even get me in, right? So all of these things are adding up.
Yeah.
And then also they're penalized.
Well, and with the toxic masculinity, just the masculinity piece is the lack of equitable healthcare for women while they're serving. And then VA is slowly improving women's health, but it's been slow, right? And so you have women who are pregnant, have a miscarriage, are expected to show up for work the next day and be performing to the top level, even though their body and had a physical trauma and emotionally are having a physical trauma, emotional trauma. Or you have someone who has a successful pregnancy and then 8 weeks later has to go do a fit test where they can run in a certain amount of time. I mean, the military was designed for men without thinking about the specific needs that women have. And then they said, oh yeah, women, you can join us, but they didn't build in policy to support the unique needs that are coming with the territory of being a female. So there's definitely, I mean, and there are like several grants right now, I think 5 different female veteran grants around healthcare and looking for innovative ideas to help with these different issues that come up for women. And then also like LGBTQ veterans. So a lot of LGBTQ veterans were, sorry if I'm just derailing, it's my first meeting, I don't know what I'm supposed to talk about, but LGBTQ veterans, a lot were dishonorably discharged under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Yeah. And there is a new forum right now where service officers are being trained and doing discharge upgrades because they should not have been discharged that way. But a lot of service officers don't know how to do the training. Stigma, don't want to do the training, won't do the upgrade. And so just last week at the American Legion conference, or 2 weeks ago, I went to the States American Legion conference and I invited my counterpart, Andrea Norton, to come with me. And the two of us did suicide prevention training. And we did a training on discharge upgrades and underserved veteran populations, women and LGBTQ veterans, in order to train some service officers on like, it is your role to help these groups. And here is how you can actually do this discharge upgrade. And here's how you can show that you are LGBTQ friendly. Maybe just have a poster in your office with a rainbow or a woman serving in uniform on your wall. And they were like, oh, I never thought about
woman.
So, I mean, just some of those types. I mean, there's so many specialized populations within the veteran population, and the veteran population often feels unheard because it's only 10% of the population. And then on top of that, you have military spouses who don't get any real benefits from VA or from eligibility, and they've transitioned their careers and their lives and are often caregivers who are at higher risk for suicide because they're not taking care of their own needs because they're caregiving for their loved one who might be dealing with mental health issues following a deployment. So I could go on and on. I could go on and on.
I'm going to jump in here. No, I love it.
Ryan, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, I concur with everything that's being said right now. I can verify that what you guys are talking about is actually accurate, even though I'm dating myself here. It's been 20 some odd years ago that I got out. But yeah.
That's
I'm just listening to the conversation and just, yep.
That is amazing. Yeah, go ahead.
It's always reassuring when I talk on and on about veterans not having served but working for VA for 7 years when a veteran says like, yeah, that's accurate. I'm like, oh, shoot. Thank you.
It's funny that you said, because my wife works for the VA as well. So she's in HR, and one of the things that we run into, or she runs into frequently, is how poorly even veterans who do serve, or in nursing and and stuff like that, about how poorly they treat each other in those situations. So I mean that what you're discussing, not necessarily the toxic masculinity, because a lot of the times it's from the females, not necessarily the males that are working at the VA, but they just treat their employees or their assistants or whatever as just terribly. And that the VA really has a difficult time, from what I hear, secondhand, a difficult time holding on to really good help because of the culture that carried over from the military into, your VA health systems and different things like that. Alyssa, I don't know if you know or see that on a regular basis from your position, but I know we hear it frequently from ours.
Well, and just to clarify, well, you all know me, I just say what I think. The toxic masculinity also is not just, dear men, you're failing. It is a part of the culture, right? So if you're in a culture, we are all in a culture that values men. It was created that way, right? So like, I'm in this culture as well, and I contribute in different ways, right? And I also try and push back in a lot of ways too. But just to clarify, Ryan, that wasn't like men are great and men suck and women are great. Like, that was not it. It was really like,
No, I didn't take it that way. I promise.
It's like the culture. We need to work on the culture and everyone in it, right? And like, that also includes us. And like, how are we contributing to these systems? Like, how are we, how can we like dismantle parts of it that need to be dismantled? And how do we also support people while also acknowledging that some things I'm doing could also be harmful as well? Just to clarify, I wanted to make sure that was on the record, that I wasn't being like,
Noted.
So that's fantastic conversation, but I do want to be cognizant of time and make sure that we're hearing from all folks in the meeting. So Sarah, you did an amazing job capturing all that. We'll likely be reaching out. And after you leave the meeting too, like if your brain's still whirling on these and you're like, okay, actually this is about navigating the service system, toss us an email and we can try to, configure that too, because we want to make sure we capture all of these thoughts. But I want to open it up to others. And so that was like amazing, like trust and equitable policies. But others in the group, as you're thinking things through in your organizations, like, and don't feel the weight of the conversation we just had diminishing anything that you're doing. You might have been like, I'm working on navigating service systems and I changed my form to make sure, like, let's like, I just want to level the playing field and make sure. So does anyone, I know Ann and Angie and Julie, like Peshna, Freddie, do you guys have things going on that you think would be, and it doesn't have to even be inequitable policies, navigating service systems, or building trust, but let's just hear from some other folks as what's going on around these things.
All right, I'll share. Zoe and I had a conversation. Zoe is my director, for those who don't know. Had a conversation over the last few months about activities and events that our licensing staff are going to. So they're going to events to promote foster parenting. We need foster parents, and that's what they're doing. But some of those events aren't necessarily appropriate to be recruiting foster parents. So are we doing our best by going to those events, only recruiting foster parents, or would it be more beneficial to go to those events and offer information about all of the services that DHHS offers? So information about applying for food stamps or Medicaid, information about the different Medicaid plans that are available in Jackson County, information about state emergency relief, all those kinds of things. And so we decided that it is more important right now for us to build that community trust and to share some of the things that we are doing in our organization to address DEI and all of those issues, to have those events, and some of them be focused on recruiting foster parents, but the majority were really looking at addressing the trust, so that the people that come to our table, they have questions about their food stamps or their Medicaid or their cash assistance, and our licensing staff doesn't know anything about that. So more questions about those kinds of things than for foster parents. So it makes sense for us to have some of our assistance payment staff attend those events and have it be a DHHS event rather than just licensing. Does that make sense? So I've been able to purchase a DHHS canopy, a couple of tablecloths. So it's not just foster parents, because when you think foster parents, people in the community think DHS, all they do is steal children, and that's not what we do. So reiterating with the community that we offer so many other services and programs for folks to take part in to support families. So just that's it. And it really is just a small shift, but it's kind of huge when we go from specifically recruiting foster parents to being present and sharing with people that we don't just steal kids.
Ooh, that's great.
I love that. And I'm actually sorry, I'm a brainstormer. You're gonna all learn
Brainstorm,
this.
yes.
Okay. I love it. And I'm also wondering like around access, because people don't always go to DHS or go online. And
Yep.
so in terms of access too, I almost wonder if like at your booth, if you have like a little side area and you bring a couple laptops, could people actually sit down and fill out those applications right there with you?
Most of our staff, well, all of our staff, we are all a mobile staff. So all of our staff have laptops. We have not done that in the past. We do have staff that work, that are contracted to work at like Center for Family Health as a staff person, that's all they do is help people walk through that process on the computer. We have navigators in our office that's their job. They're in the lobby to help people apply for those benefits using the computers that we have in our office. But that's a good thought. We had an event that one of our staff went to that she ended up leaving the booth and going in and getting her computer so that somebody could apply for benefits. So it is something that we can do. And we've talked about having folks some of our staff go to the interface shelter to help people apply for benefits there. So, I mean, we're willing to do anything. So having our computers available at those kinds of events is really not a bad idea. I'm going to write it down.
I think you could track it and you see how much more people enroll in a setting like that, where it's right there and they haven't thought about it. They don't know if they're qualified. They're maybe a little bit scared to go take the time to go in, learn about it. We started doing that with VA recently, bringing our enrollment person to all of our events. And we've always had multiple people enroll in healthcare on site. And it makes that access piece so much easier. I think I love the idea of offering that at events where you're going to people in a public forum, and then if you could enroll them right then and there. Oh my gosh, I think that's like so exciting.
Yep, I just put that in I've got a running email to Zoe with all the questions that have come up during this meeting. So that's another question on my running email to Zoe.
I love that, Angie. And I also love that it's what you said, you're changing it from, we have this goal that we're going to go to this place to do, even if it's a need, it's a legit need, is that you need to recruit foster. Like that's for sure. You also are aware of the stigma that your title and agency carries. And also there's a barrier to people accessing. So it's like, how do we do all of these things? Right. So to me, there's you're changing the way you show up, right? So it's like, hey, nice to meet you. Here are some things. Where do you fit, right? So it's not even like I'm here to see if like you fit with me. It's like, I'd like to get to know you, see if learn, and not that I always want to say relationships are the key to everything, but like getting to know, right? You're like, oh my gosh, oh, well, here's our table. We have all of these things. Oh, wow, you would like to be a foster parent? Interesting. Here's a form. Oh my gosh, you need help with food? Yes, go here, right? So it literally is, essentially triaging and like case managing, right? But like right there, that you're offering as a holistic offering versus I'm going to get you,
Yeah, and I think it's important to recognize those relationships, because people don't ask for help, especially folks who have in the past had bad experiences in the system. They don't want to ask for help because you're just going to take my kids away. Well, talk to me a little bit. I'm not going to take your kids away. I'm going to get you food. We're going to work on this together. We're not at this to place blame on anybody. We're working together, and having somebody have a good conversation and connecting with somebody, because that's really what it is. It's that connection. I was treated badly the last time I was in your office, so I'm only here to get this free trinket. But while I'm talking to you, I realize, hey, they can help me, and maybe that person just was having a bad day that day, or whatever. So those relationships really are important, and Zoe and I have had this conversation a number of times, and we both agree that we need to change our perception in the community, and by doing that, by having these friendly faces out there, is only going to build.
I love that. That's just honestly a change in a way of
Mhm.
offering services. And like, not that I want to say it's a change of mindset, but look at, right, like
It is though.
it's like lining up what you're offering with your
Yeah.
mindset, right? Because of
Yep.
course you want to support all people, but maybe your actions aren't showing that, right? So
Yes.
now you're like
Yes.
switching to be like, oh gosh, well, here's how I
Yep.
would like to show up.
Yep. And like, I think you just said too, instead of going there with the idea that you're going to help me, I'm going there with an open mind and an open table saying, how can I help you? And I think that says more of what we want to say than the other. So
I love that very much.
and I have to turn my camera back off because I've got this low filter thing going on, and it keeps telling me it's going to shut down if I don't turn off the
Oh.
camera. So I'm turning back the camera back.
No pressure ever for camera. Happy to have you however you show up. Is there anyone else that I'm just quite warm and fuzzy, truthfully. Is there, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, this is Julie. I have a question for Angie. When you're going out to those patients, I shouldn't say when you're doing that. It made me think of something when you were talking about that. And are you getting, or are you connected to the hub to receive referrals over for patients that have food insecurities?
I don't believe that we are attached to the hub because of it was a legal issue with the state of Michigan legal. We are connected through Bridges. We also have something like the hub. There's no follow-up as part of Bridges, but we do, we really are a frontline for people needing assistance, because everybody applies for food and everybody applies for Medicaid, who is low income. They know where we are. As far as I forgot the question. I'm so sorry.
No, that's, I was curious if you were connected to the hub to receive those referrals.
Yeah, we were for a while, but legal had a problem with it, so we are not. And it was a confidentiality release of information issue that our legal program had. So we are not connected to the hub. We are still involved with the hub and the CCL, but we are not in the hub. So you can't refer, I think you can refer people to us, but there isn't any follow-up or anything that we provide for that referral.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it again, it's a confidentiality thing. The state of Michigan wasn't willing to bend on that so that we could be in the hub.
Understood.
Is there anyone else that wanted to share or make sure that we captured things in this very high-tech note-taking manner?
I don't want to dominate, and this is not veteran related, but I Ryan's on and other people are on who I think could give me good feedback about this if possible around transportation, permission to discuss, unless in case someone else has something they would like to bring up.
Well, yeah, I guess, is it a barrier? I mean,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
sure, go for it.
So again, I'm working with the Jackson County Military Coalition, and I also recently attended the Grass Lake Wellness Initiative. And I know Martha was there, but she had to jump off. And they were actually exploring ways to extend transportation, and Wave had come in to try to maybe offer some extended services to Grass Lake in particular. Out in the Brooklyn and Napoleon area, a lot of the veterans out there frequently discuss transportation barriers to being able to come into the city of Jackson. I cannot tell you how many phone calls I fielded in this last year about veterans getting stuck at the Jackson outpatient clinic who were driven there or Uber there and then couldn't get back home from there after taking the shuttle to Ann Arbor. So those kind of barriers in Jackson County. Meanwhile, Hillsdale County is another county I work with the Hillsdale County Veterans Coalition, and they have pretty significant transportation challenges. They have Dial-A-Ride, which is very limited within the city and primarily used for busing school children. And then they have Key Opportunities, who provides very limited transportation to certain groups on very certain specific routes. And then you have Lenawee County, who right now is currently developing a transportation authority. So I've been kind of talking to some folks about transportation, primarily in Hillsdale, and they really at first wanted a county approach, and really fleshing it all out, realizing it's really only going to work probably as a regional approach. And I actually had heard that Kent County had some success working with Phoenix Mobility in developing a transportation hub. And I had a recent meeting with Kate Schramm, who's the director of that, and with one of the folks at Key Opportunities in Hillsdale. And we're just exploring whether Jackson, Lenawee, and Hillsdale might have interest in developing a regional transportation hub and just coming together to talk about what that could even look like. And the way that I know that the mobility management in Michigan is also talking about creating regional systems. So when I'm approaching these conversations, I'm not promoting Phoenix Mobility as like we should go with them. They have an approach. I have documentation for them about what that looks like. But I do think the idea of doing a regional approach probably is what those more rural counties could benefit from, because there's really no other way to do it. But
I'm gonna interrupt and suggest that this be a separate conversation. I think with Ryan. I mean, it sounds passionate and legit, and for sure. And I think probably something that Ryan would be able to connect. And also, I don't want to cut you off, right? So yeah, I'm just gonna put that you guys are gonna connect afterwards, because I want to make sure that, like, especially this, honestly, these meetings are like, what are things that like you're working on that would, so I think that maybe like a good next step would be for you guys to connect. And then if it turns out like actually, and also it's like, you know, sharing things, what you're working on, how we can help. And this does sound to me like Ryan would probably have, I mean, he would be the person or know someone where to go for the next one. So I'm going to put, maybe you guys connect outside of this, so that makes sure that we keep the rest of everyone engaged. I know we're doing that, and I want to make sure that we capture everyone else's. Perfect, thanks.
But we do want you to come back and say, connected with Ryan to address this issue, and this is the outcome. So that's really, you know.
No, you didn't want us to talk about it here, so you don't get any more feedback on it.
We want you to work
we'll
it
take
all
our
out.
success elsewhere.
Here's the thing, Marcus had mentioned something about Sarah coming out in the cheerleader outfit to root on the basketball team. We haven't seen that yet either, so.
Amy, I blame you for that.
That was I mean, I'm just, you know, I like to provide solutions to problems.
me with pom-poms is not actually in my job description, but I am a good cheerleader. That's true.
You are a great cheerleader.
Alyssa,
I was just going to say, Alyssa, if you've got some time after this, I can always shoot you a Zoom link and we can connect like right after this meeting if you would like. And we can just kind
Let's
of
do it.
have a preliminary conversation about that.
Yes, please.
Okay. Yep. I'll do that.
Thank you.
awesome. Thanks for that quick flexibility. and you will update us later, or else we will stalk you.
We're good at that.
Who else do we have on? Teshna or Freddie or Julie, if there's anything, and no pressure ever to share, but really just if you wanted to provide thoughts around what's already been shared, or maybe you have an idea of things that people are sharing around barriers you've come up against, or strategies that you're working on or want to work on, or none of the above, and you're just happy to hang out and listen. Just wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to share if you wanted.
Man, I can share a little bit. We always are working on something. I mean, we've got a lot of things. I think every time I come on here, I say that. But just more recently, we're looking at, I had a meeting last night with my voice of the community and trying to develop a process to look at operational decisions through a health equity lens. Because a lot of decisions are made not looking through that lens and what it does or how it affects the community, depending on, whatever the decision is. So we're looking at a process to make sure that that happens. And so the conversation was, what I said was, you know what, this is really digging deep with the systemic piece of health equity. So I'm happy to be a part of an organization that is digging deeper and deeper and really looking at policies and processes and things that we do, to make sure that, everything is equitable for our patients. So it's going to be a lot of work, but when you're dealing with this type of digging deep into things, I think it's going to work well once we get it figured out, because we already are working on it. So, and then the cool thing is that we have the backing of our executive leadership around this. So it's attached to the strategic system plan, 3-year plan that we have. So
I am so glad to hear that, Teshna. So glad to hear that, because one of the wins that is noted had to do with a policy for the hospital that didn't meet the needs of some of our patients. So I'm so glad to hear that you're going to take those voices now so you can make policies that make sense, but also doesn't leave people out not getting the care that they need because they can't fit into that policy. So this is wonderful. I love to hear that. Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.
And acknowledging how difficult it will be, because really, if it's going to be done right and well, right, it's like not going to be done tomorrow.
Exactly. Got to be patient, but the fact is that we are moving. It's not like it's, we're making decisions, pretty quickly to get this process. I shouldn't say, and it's not in a bad way, because when I look at our performance improvement team or our analytics, they have that brain to, kind of think about everything possible, almost every possible thing that, whatever. But, and we'll pilot it. We will pilot it on a couple of initiatives that we have going. So, but yeah, it's really digging.
That's awesome that you guys are digging deep. And, as always, we encourage you to involve those folks that are experiencing those things in the process of coming up with solutions, right?
Oh yeah, that's why my voice of the community is vital in it. They're part of the process. So
tell me about the voice of the community. Is it a local group?
It's a team that I put together. We're dealing with Black population, but it's a group of Black people from the community that I put together to talk about a lot of the health inequities. A lot of we put down what we heard from them, kind of put it into some pillars, and then took that to our executive leadership, and now we're working on things that we can do to address those things. Right now, it's kind of more like the little short wins or small wins that we can do right away.
Yeah.
And so it's really cool because they're going to be in that process of even like when, whether it's operational or whatever, getting their say or their voice in it, taking that to administration with their recommendations and kind of that whole circle and looping back. But they will be heavily involved in it, hearing their voice. So
That's amazing. And I just want to, and is your leadership like agreeable to having them be part of the solution too, right? So sometimes the voice comes and the folks in the room decide how to fix it, and it's like, nah, we keep doing that wrong. Let them be part of the solution too.
Yeah,
so that's
exactly it. It's taking their recommendations, what they feel it is, and because we can have ideas, and it might not be what
what they need. They know what they need, right?
So
folks know what they need. We got to get out of the way.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that, Teshna. That's really, like Angie said, that's super encouraging. And I know like in a big health system, it's daunting, right? Like thinking about all the policies and the blah, 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 and then the hierarchy, and it has to go here for this, eyes on it first and blah, blah, blah. But like, that's super encouraging, that process.
Yeah. And if you come across things, bring them back to the meeting, like the small wins. We want to hear about those, so if it's just a form change, or if it's just a, I don't know, but bring them back because it's exciting, and it helps spur other people to be like, we should probably look at that too, right? So
yeah, we got it's kind of a twofold, because I kind of see it as the policy piece where we're looking at a process to make sure that when decisions are made, that things are looked through that health equity lens. But the other piece of it is that we're working on, some of the things we heard was maybe like we need more healthcare available in the South Side or something like that. We may not be able to put a clinic right now in that area, but are there things that we could be doing to help with that, whether it's like screenings or, providing education, things like that. So we're working with the Martin Luther King Center to figure out how we can do that. So we've got it's kind of like a twofold. We got the one piece where it's the process of making sure that decisions are made, that it goes through that lens. But then on the other hand, we have the voice and the things that we heard that we're also working on. So,
well, and also to your point, Teshna, you just brought up one of my favorite things about collective work is that solution might not be you, right? Like it might be actually something that's already happening that maybe you can help strengthen, or maybe it's a collaboration, or maybe, like you said, we're working with the King Center. Maybe it's staffing of something, I don't know, whatever, creative ways, right? But there's also a piece in there too of like, oh, we are hearing this thing that's happening. We want to acknowledge it, listen, believe, and then how do we make decisions around that? And that might and should, right, also involve people who are already doing it or might be leading or something like that. I think that's great.
One of the other things that we're working on at Henry Ford is not in the Jackson area, although I'd like to see it roll out to the Jackson area, is we're working with Habitat for Humanity and the referrals that are made to Habitat in order to get things performed at their homes. For example, grip bars and things like that are put in order for patients to actually go home to their actual home, as opposed to having to go to a skilled nursing facility. We're working on a project that is bringing back the referral information back to the provider. So, for example, if a referral is made and it's deemed that the patient doesn't want their services, or it's deemed that the patient doesn't meet income guidelines or something like that, that information comes back so that they know that that referral is either completed or that they need to follow up on that referral if needed. So it's really great to see the information flow and actually be used as a benefit for the patient, instead of it just being in this big black hole and nobody knows what's going on with it, including the patient.
So to me, Julie, it sounds like you're talking about like making sure people aren't falling through the cracks kind of thing, right? Like, so,
Exactly.
so if there's a
Mhm.
referral made and they don't make it or something and services were not offered, then letting the original, what agency know, right? So that people
Right.
are still being supported as much as they can.
Exactly.
And what was your other example? I want to make sure I capture it correctly. It was, you said like adding like, is it safety rails to homes? Do I have that wording right? You said something about instead of patients
Might
being
be
in
insane.
hospital.
She's muted. Julie, you're muted if you're clarifying.
Yeah,
Thank you. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, so there are times that patients are able to be released from the hospital if they had a safe home to go back to, but there are times that they can't afford to put in grab bars, and that's what they need to go home safely. And so referrals are made to Habitat for Humanity in order to come out and help those folks out to be able to install those things. And you know, we have that connectivity in Detroit. I'd like to see that connectivity also come out to Jackson as well. So
that's a
in
desire
time.
you're talking about. Like
It
that.
is.
Okay.
Mhm.
That like something that hasn't quite happened yet, but you're like hoping for it.
Yeah, it's happened in Detroit. It's just not happened in Jackson
Yet.
yet. Exactly. Yet.
That's great. Gosh, we've covered a lot of things.
Yeah. We're solving the world's problems in one Zoom meeting.
I'll tell you, I always come to these meetings and think, you know, there's so much experience and so many good things happening all around us. And I feel like I can't even compare to some of these people and what they're doing, but I have to remind myself. So, and I'm saying this for everybody, not just me, but those big things that happen don't happen without these small things. So just acknowledging that I think all of us are doing such good things, and even if it seems like a small thing, we can't make those huge land sweeping changes without taking that first little bunny hop. So just acknowledging that and being grateful that I can be part of so much experience and things happening right now, because this is awesome. I can't wait to send my email to Zoe to say, hey, what are we doing?
It is. That's the whole concept of collective impact, right? It's, you know, sometimes we all, you know, you can't push a massive boulder. We had that image up a hill, but if everyone picks up a rock, we can make a big difference.
And to your, I love that sentiment so much, and that we all have different roles, right, Angie? Like you were saying, like someone's doing a big thing. I'm like, well, it just might be a different position. You know, like I don't work on the front lines with people, right? But like my role is different, your role is different, Julie's is different, and together, right, we're making this thing happen. So absolutely, we're all integral to all of the work, which is why we are trying to collect everyone and gather everyone. Exactly. There's really no better note to end a meeting on than that. Does everyone feel warm and fuzzy? Should do a warm and fuzzy check-in. I got 2 thumbs up from Ryan. That's all I need.
Am warm and fuzzy and also 2 thumbs up.
So we're just to kind of cap it from a transportation aspect, we're kind of we're in the process of looking at different dispatching software, which would encompass scheduling type software as well. And a lot of the newer softwares that are coming out have passenger facing technology that allows them to book rides, cancel rides, do different things on there, track vehicles, know where their ride's going to be, know what their fare is, sometimes pay that right through the directly through the app. So those are the kinds of softwares that we're actually looking at that will hopefully increase accessibility to a lot of people and make it easier for people to utilize the system. So, you know, when we're talking about navigating service systems and stuff, right now we're only a call in to schedule. you know, unless Angie sends over like an authorization for rides to wellness and they have like, you know, something that's already on the authorization that says this passenger is going to get, we'll take care of that at that point. But the types of softwares that we are looking at has that kind of technology. So, you know, it's going to increase hopefully accessibility for a lot more people. We'll still have the old system for those folks who aren't comfortable with that. And it's going to be some time down the road, but that's the kind of software that I'm discovering like through the conference that I was just at. That's out there now. A lot of these software companies are doing this where, you know, you can actually multi-line too. So you can figure out if I need to take a reserve ride from this area to get to this area so I can take a bus. You know what I mean? It will actually help them piece together that trip within the county, making it easier for them to, you know, to get around and stuff like that too. So it's really, there's a lot of great software out there as far as dispatching, scheduling, multi-lining or interlining, I guess, between services, which will make it, hopefully, the idea is that it'll make it a little bit more simple for people to utilize the system, you know, kind of a one-stop shop, as it were. The other thing that we're kind of investigating right now is the MDOT is working in conjunction with and I'm going to get this name right. The Michigan Office of Future Mobility and Electrification. They're doing the Michigan, it's a Michigan Mobility Wallet Challenge. So, and what that is, and Alyssa may know a little something about that. What it is it's an application on your smartphone. If you don't have a smartphone, there's a card that it's basically a virtual wallet, and that virtual wallet can be utilized on vehicles, on buses, to pay your fares. So they can use that card to pay on the reserve ride. They can use that to pay on the fixed route buses. If they're going someplace else, they can use that in Ann Arbor to pay for their ride there, or you know what I'm saying? So it's all about regionalization and giving people an option to have the ability to have kind of a one-stop shop, make it simpler to them, for them to be able to pay their fares instead of having to have like multiple passes, multiple tickets, or whatever. So just some interesting software that's out there and some interesting things that are going on in the transportation side of things. I sat in on a meeting for that. I want to say it was last week. Just kind of initially taking a look at different things like that. So they discussed it at the conference as well. And not only would people be able to put stuff onto their wallet or put stuff into their wallet themselves, but I guess in talking with doctors' offices, a lot of their patients are no-shows. They, 60 to 70% of cancellations and no-shows are because they are having transportation issues. So doctors would even have access to be able to load money into these wallets for their patients. If, I don't know the intricate details of it, but this was just kind of an example of some of the things that they would be able to do to help people get around. So eliminating those barriers to transportation, or
Awesome.
barriers to opportunity from transportation. Yep, exactly.
That's great. And again, like the potential of it, right? Like even if you haven't figured out like how this will work, or in the different providers or places that would be able to help navigate that. I think that's great. Wow. All right. Well, what else? Oh, we have 2 minutes.
Yeah.
My
They're dropping
gosh.
off.
What did you say?
I said they're
This,
dropping like flies.
this was a great meeting today.
Aren't they always, Angie? I mean, come
They
on.
usually are, but this one, it just felt like a different energy today. Yeah, just my head is spinning right now. Just all of the great things we talked about today, just amazing.
It's you guys bring in the stuff that you're doing, and it's so fantastic. We love it.
Love it. a lot.
This is a great group to get together just because it feels like we're sitting around in the living room sipping tea and just chit chatting. You know what I mean? But just
Yeah.
discussing different things. Well, we can do this. Well, we can do that. Well,
Yeah, try
we should
this,
get
do
together
that.
and do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
We're not super formal.
what I'm getting more than we have in the past. So when we first started these meetings, it really was the same people coming to all of these meetings. And because we're all starting, it's kind of daunting. Like we're not really sure what we're supposed to be doing. We're not sure how, we're kind of questioning, but it feels like we've been meeting now for a while. And it feels like with every meeting, there are wins. And
1,000,000%.
that is so encouraging. So when we like, again, I say that the energy this time has been so different because, and I think it's because we talked about 6 or 7 different topics and all of them are wins. Like, oh my gosh, we're not just talking about barriers. We're talking about things we've actually done that have made things better for our families. And I'm blown away. It's wonderful.
Also, Angie, I would argue that you've also been attending enough that maybe we've infiltrated your brain a little.
You
so that
have.
so now you see the
Sarah,
wins
yes,
in the good
I
shit
s-
you're doing.
So Sarah, I look at data completely different now.
That's it. I've reached my peak. I'm done.
Spirit fingers.
Oh, but I love that you said that because absolutely. And that was, I mean, that was as the space morphs and changes and as people come and go, we also are building relationships with you guys, right? Like
Yeah,
we know
yeah.
you and we feel familiar and we can like
Yep.
harass you a little bit, right? But also like you're doing good work and like, let's call it out and let's see it. And then like, oh my gosh, like you said, oh my gosh, now I see things differently. I actually am
Yeah.
doing this thing and it connects over here. That's the whole point, you know,
Yeah.
and that we're doing it alongside with you. We're just learning along with you. So
I like that. And I think it makes a huge difference now that we are seeing those wins, that we're definitely seeing the work that everybody is doing. And it would be, I would like to see more of these community partners coming in to share. Like Community Action is doing some great stuff. Interface Shelter is doing some really good stuff.
Yeah, I've reached out, Toby. Yes. So we've
Angie,
reached out.
why don't you get them?
Get them
yeah.
to come because I've got emails to a couple of these agencies with their wins. We tried to get you guys to enter stuff and nobody did it. So now we're just putting it down and saying,
Yeah.
yes, just give us a thumbs up.
Now you're going to get emails from us that says, Alyssa, it sounds like you're doing this thing. Is that true? And you'll be like, yep. And I'm like,
Yep.
cool, got it
Cool,
in.
publish.
Like,
Okay, Sarah and Amy, which of you wants to come to my next emergency needs? I'm going to have one of you come and talk about the affinity groups and the benefit of the affinity groups.
well, send us an email. We can divvy it up. And
Yep.
also your voice is super powerful, right? So I can say like, here's a nice shiny thing. And then also your voice saying like, here's the value I found, right? Like,
you just made me feel so good.
it's true. I'm just here to like reflect a truth. Here's a mirror. So.
All right, I've got another meeting that I've got to
Yep.
get to. You
We're
guys,
gonna
this
wrap.
has been a great meeting. I'm so excited to see the notes and to look at this video again because this was a lot of information. I'm going to send Zoe to this one just because so much has been said in this meeting that I want to make sure that Zoe gets it too.
I love
Awesome.
it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, thanks for
All right, thanks, you guys.
coming and
Yeah.
engaging and all of it. We appreciate you all.
All right.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Have
guys.
a
Have a
great
great day.
day.
Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.